Sir.
Yeah, hello. I grew up in this area. I hiked and hunted and rode dirt bikes up in these hills long before there were houses. And there's been smells emanating from those hills for years and years. And my question is, as we know about the catastrophic event on October 23rd, what hasn't SoCalGas revealed to us as the homeowners and people who live in the area that's happened maybe many months or many years before that? You know, we've all heard that there's 100, 119, 190 wells honeycombed throughout that Santa Susana mountain range. But every damn one needs to be checked. Every one of them needs to be checked, not just the one that blew catastrophically. So we have the peace of mind to know, and if they were leaking, we want to know for how long and where. Because this isn't a new problem. It's certainly a new crisis, but it's not a new problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, you want to?
Sir, again, I completely understand that point of view. We have, at the direction of the governor, and it's obviously a sentiment that's shared in the legislature, at least by Senator Pavley, and I'm certain many others. The plan to test every single one of the wells in Aliso Canyon, there are 115 of them, and before any of those wells are put back on injection, we will have a testing protocol established, and that those wells will need to pass it to make sure that they are competent and able to withstand pressures.
Great. Thank you. Sir.
Yeah, are the results going to be transparent?
Absolutely. Not only will the results be transparent, but
And they will post them on their website, which you can get through Department of Conservation's website, or go to the website we've referenced tonight through OES, and that's where all the material is coming for a one-stop click. So you will have that information. Sir. Okay. Okay. Ma'am, we'll have to wait till you get up to the microphone and hold that thought, because we want to hear from you. Sir.
Hi, my name is Murray Rosansky from Chatsworth. I want to suggest that there's a practical near-term way to capture a significant amount of the leaking gas and turn it into hot air and electricity, and they're called gas turbine generator sets. There are aircraft-based gas turbine generators that fit in containers and are portable, and the front end of them is basically a 100,000 horsepower vacuum cleaner, and they love running on natural gas. So instead of seeing this huge plume coming up, which keyed me on this idea because it's concentrated, a group of these gas turbine generator sets with the intakes aimed at the leak would pull in a significant amount of the gas and again turn it into hot air and electricity. And why that hasn't been tried, I don't know.
Thank you. You guys want to speak to that?
Jason, in a couple of sentences, do you want to explain that? So SoCalGas right now is planning this gas capture equipment that they're going to put over where the area that's leaking. And the idea is to get the gas and then to get rid of the gas. And if that's successful, it means the methanes and the odorants that are coming in the community stop. So we get asked the question, what's the big deal? Why can't they just do that? And so the gentleman had one suggestion. Can you just talk to the challenge, or what's the difficulty?
I believe so. I can't wait. The gas capture system that's under discussion right now has both an incinerator component, which is under consideration for permit by the South Coast Air Quality Management District, but there is also the challenge of actually capturing the gas at the surface. We understand that SoCalGas is presently preparing some notions of how to pull that out of the ground, but there are considerations that have to be had that have to do with what the explosive limits are of natural gas. This notion that you've mentioned, sir, I think that I'm sorry, there you are. This notion that you mentioned, sir, I'm certain that we would like to hear it. I'm sure that the air quality folks would also like to hear it, and we'd be happy to pass that along to SoCalGas. We are very interested in finding a way to capture that methane.
Maybe you can, after tonight, come and speak to Jason and give him a little more information. Thank you very much. Sir.
My name is Rich Feldman. I'm from Chatsworth. My first question is, what will you do to stop Southern California Gas from following every other utility whenever they have a problem and jacking their rates sky high?
Oh, yeah.
That one's for President Picker.
We're in the midst of looking at all the things that they do from all over their service area for gas and what their expenses are. Some of those expenses, I think we'd all agree, are a pretty good idea. We want them to go through and continue to look at weak spots in their system and make sure that their gas pipelines are as safe as they can conceivably be. We want them to have an adequate workforce to continue to look for problems to safely operate the system. We want them to actually be able to get a reliable supply of gas, both for home heating and cooking, but also for electricity. So we look at all those expenses, we look at their costs, we try to figure out the different classes of customers and what a fair share is. I'm not sure that this is going to dominate that cost. I think that their gas pipeline replacement and operations and maintenance is a bigger cost in the system. However, I think that if you're interested, we can make sure that their proceeding is actually posted on the OES website so you can look at it for yourself. And then we'll be happy to make sure you get updates along the way.
You may have answered.
Hold on, there's one more follow-up to that.
Hi, I just wanted to add that we actually sent a letter to SoCalGas directing them to provide us the detailed cost information, and they're submitting that information on the 15th of the month. So the first submittal is today, and we will be posting that on the website, so the PUC website. You can go directly there or go through the Cal OES so that the cost information will be transparent for everybody.
But Lisa and Michael, it's not a given that ratepayers are going to be asked to pay for the response costs. That's actually will be an active discussion at the CPUC.
Two different pools of money. One is what goes into rates and the costs that we're tracking for actions here. That's separate. They're going to have to come back to justify to us that should actually go to ratepayers. That's going to be after we investigate both what happened and who's responsible.
Okay, good, thank you.
Good. Your
You may-
second follow-up question, sir?
He may have answered my second question. I don't use Facebook. I don't have a smartphone. I'm known as a dinosaur. How will
God
you-
bless you on that.
How would you get information to me? And it seems you do have direct websites. That's good. Thank you. And last one. I heard today the expression blowout, which doesn't sound like a really good thing to happen. What's going on?
Okay. Jason?
If I may, the term blowout is quite expressive. I understand that. A blowout generally would refer to a loss of wellhead control, which is to say, without getting too technically geeky, the top of the well that keeps the pressure in place, if it stops keeping that pressure in place, that's a blowout. Right now, the top of the well at SS25 is keeping the pressure in place, and we've secured the well, SoCalGas has secured the well, and so we don't think that that's something that's imminent.
Amen.
And so,
And very-
sorry to butt in, but I'm not an expert, so I want to try to explain this. But you know, the leaking well, the SS25 well, is capped at the top. So it's not that there's a hole in the top of the well and it's streaming out. The leak is about 500 feet down. And so the issue is, because these attempts have pushed materials down and it's come back up, it's made the ground unstable around the wellhead. And it's required this anchoring that Jason talked about. The concern is, if they kept on doing that and it got so unstable, then the wellhead could lose control and the top of the well could open, and that would be a lot more methane. So that's what everybody wants to avoid, and that's what would be called a blowout. In this case, the division has been very clear over the past weeks that wellhead needs to be anchored and double anchored and triple anchored to make sure that wellhead doesn't open.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Roberta, and I have a totally different question. Why are you only worrying about the people who are leaving? What about the people that are staying in their homes? No one gives a hoot about us. They're slow in coming do the weather stripping. They're slow in putting the filtering. They're not offering us anything, but you're offering the world to the people that are going away.
Did you want to comment on that at all? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a crack at that. So, two things.
Us.
So, no, I got the question, and I hear your concern as well. So first, in answering that question, I think you should all know as well, and I'm answering this on the city of Los Angeles is actually not relocating anybody. In fact, this facility is not even in the city of LA. But having said that, what we've done is we've gone after SoCalGas to actually do the weather stripping, to speed that up and hire additional contractors. We took them to court over this as well on your behalf to make sure that they were doing that and stepping those efforts up. The air filtration systems that they're installing now was one of the things that we mandated early on to say not everybody is going to be leaving their home. And in fact, even if you've left your home and relocated, you can still sign up for the air filtration systems and weather stripping. But for the ones that are here, those are the things that are being done by SoCalGas, not a government agency, but SoCalGas, and they're doing so because they've entered into also the stipulated order by the courts.
But you're paying these people to live in another place $5,000, $8,000, $9,000. You're finding a home. Why don't you reimburse us for staying in our home?
A couple other things they're doing. So a couple other
Not
things.
giving anything to us.
Right.
Not a penny.
So a couple other things. First of all, again, let me just be crystal clear. It's SoCalGas. It's not the city of LA who's paying anybody to do anything. But having said that, if you actually also, we've asked a couple things. It was getting very complicated for those who have moved out. Let me just focus on that for 1 second. They had different per diems for meals. If you were over 18, you got $45. If you were under 18, you got $35. If you were under, that's all gone. You had to save all your receipts. That's all gone. You just get now a reimbursement, so you don't have to be a CPA overnight and document and save everything. That's all gone. For the ones that are staying in their homes, SoCalGas doesn't provide any compensation to either if you've left the home or staying in the home. They're simply covering the out-of-cost and the out-of-pocket cost. The people that have been relocated still have to pay a mortgage. The people that have been relocated still have to pay their property taxes, and in fact, we put in a motion to lower your property taxes for everybody. So we're working with the county assessor on that. That's for everybody. The people who have been relocated still have to pay their trash pickup. We've put in a motion, and we're working very closely with Public Works to not have a fee to pick up your trash because you're not even taking it out. So those are the things we are working on. So appreciate that.
I don't care what you say.
Yeah, okay.
They are making money. I'll keep saying, however
I
it is,
agree 100%.
take care of us, the ones
Yes,
who are
ma'am.
staying in our homes.
Absolutely.
You're not concerned about us.
Great, thank you.
One iota.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir.
Yes, my name is James Ripley from Sylmar, and you're probably, I saw in the news yesterday that there was they call it a massive leak, okay? To me, it's a massive overflow. A leak is something that drips. This is not dripping. So the reason I'm here from Sylmar is I'd like to know what everyone's doing as far as assurances and inspections to let the surrounding zip codes, such as Chatsworth, Granada Hills, Northridge, where they've changed the kids and they sent them to the schools in Northridge. They may be still breathing it. I don't know. But all these areas, how are they being communicated to? One person said something about online. Well, contrary to popular belief, there's still a lot of people who don't use laptops and so forth and so on. So are there mailings that are going out with assurances as to what it is in that neighborhood? And has anyone checked the neighborhoods? I'd like to know if anyone checked the neighborhoods, and that's my question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it kind of relates to the question from Granada Hills earlier, which is what's the geographical range of the air quality data collection? Because we obviously talk a lot about Porter Ranch because Porter Ranch is on the front lines, but the point is, if you're living in an adjacent community, you may be impacted as well. And so I think nobody sitting up here actually has the specific locations in front of them of the air data, quality air collection locations, but if those locations aren't broad enough into adjacent communities, we will make a commitment tonight to make sure that the air quality collecting happens in these communities. I actually think it isn't to some degree, but one thing that one of our agencies is doing is measuring it hourly and actually putting that online. And so we'll make sure that it's geographically broad. To your question of, what happens if you're not online and what amount of mailings, sort of snail mail, the state, I don't think, is doing any snail mail to date. So that's good feedback. And I can't speak for SoCalGas.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay, sir.
Also, understanding the benzene, and that's what really brought me over here. The benzene is like 18 parts per billion. And if you breathe that one time, that's all you should ever take a whiff of, one time. And if it's 14 times that amount now, how far is that blowing? Is it going to Santa Clarita? Is it where? That's my question.
Who's go? Ma'am?
So the highest grab sample that we saw was about 5 parts per billion. But if you look over time at all the grab samples, they average less than a part per billion. We have some data from the South Coast Air Quality Management District that took 24-hour continuous samples. Those were around 1/10 to 2/10 part per billion. So those levels we don't think would cause an adverse health effect for benzene. The mercaptans, the symptoms we're hearing about the mercaptans make sense to me because our nose is the best detector. There's better than an instrument at detecting the sulfur-containing compounds. And they do give you headaches. You respond to the noxious odor with headaches and nausea. That's real, for sure. The benzene, though, we just don't think there's an issue with benzene.
Thank you. Thank you. Sir?
I have several. My name is Marco Maldonado, and I have some questions to different agencies, starting with CPUC. In addition to the question that the gentleman was asking in terms of the rate increase and how you guys are going to quantify that and then making sure that this cost does not get passed on to the ratepayers, I believe there was an article that states that you guys were aware that the gas company knew of how the pipes were corroding and how some of them were already leaking and compromised, and that's the whole reason why also, in addition to the normal rate increase, they were requesting this rate increase. So how are you going to differentiate that cost increase this coming up February, which we're supposed to attend to as well, and then continue to increase based on you guys knowing the fact that this facility was deteriorating versus now that it's in compromise and there's additional cost to that? How are you going to differentiate that so that the cost doesn't get passed on to us?
Hi. Okay. I'm going to try my best to explain this. So to the first question about the fact that an issue was reported to the California Public Utilities Commission, the filing that SoCalGas made where it's referring to their concern with that they need to do more maintenance on the wells, it was done in the context of a rate filing where they were asking for future costs going forward after 2016. So it basically starting with this year, and that decision hasn't been made yet. That is still pending in front of the commission. And because it is a rate-based filing, it isn't a notification of a safety issue. So that information is also being shared with DOGGR, and it's really the Department of Geothermal Resources and Gas that is doing that review, and it's their ongoing monitoring. So to the question of how the cost aspect is going to be looked at, the current cost that SoCalGas is spending, they can't really spend more than they've already been authorized at this point. So as President Picker was saying earlier, anything that they're incurring over and above what they were already authorized is going to go through an additional review. So there is no way for SoCalGas to really spend anything on this issue and then hide the ball. We're going to be watching them very closely, and there's going to be a separate case to look just at that.
I'll try to distill it down. They asked us a while ago for permission to spend money to upgrade wells and to go back to some of the wells that...
Did you say some of the leaked wells?
Excuse me?
You said some of the leaked wells, right?
No. I don't think I said deep wells, but they have to ask us for permission to expend ratepayer dollars. They have to give us an amount. We have to approve it. They have previously asked for dollars to go back and fix wells. They are spending some of that money. In the course of that, all this came to light. They found the leak. They've been working on it. The costs that they have for this specific well are being tracked separately. They can't charge that to ratepayers in this upcoming rate case. They're going to have to come to us with a special request, or it's going to probably get caught up in whatever kinds of enforcement actions get taken place. That's why we're tracking it separately.
So then my question is, when you say that they're requesting additional costs to repair wells, and that notion of repairs, are they letting you know in the report that there are leaks and wells are compromised? So in other words, are we paying for their repairs, or should they be paying for their own repairs?
Word, because we are not well experts, but this was an old gas and oil extraction field. There's been gas there and oil there for millions of years. And after the companies who were taking gas, Chevron, Tidelands, a number of other gas companies left it, they came and asked to be able to use it for gas storage. There are something like 200 wells there. They're only using 110. They have to go, and the word
So just to keep my question simple, if there are repairs needed, are we paying for those repairs, or should they be paying for their own repairs?
Needed. This is big infrastructure. Somebody is always repairing gas pipelines, gas compressors, gas meters. They're always repairing stuff.
I just can't answer.
If you have a gas meter at your house, sooner or later somebody's going to come and replace it or repair it. If you have gas pipelines that come into your house and you ever have a leak, somebody comes and repairs it and replaces it. That's a fact of life.
So in other words, it's safe to say, President Picker, that part of their ongoing rates go into ongoing maintenance and repair work. I think that's what he's trying to say. So,
But I understand there's normal wear and tear.
Right.
The cost to the operations when somebody actually buys something new, and then you have depreciation and wear and tear. But when you know you're going into a business and things already broken, and then you're going to ask somebody else to fix something that you're already buying that's broken because they already disclosed, hey, these items are leaking. Let me go ahead and increase my rate so I can repair the infrastructure that's already leaking.
I'm going to have to defer to the Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources to tell you what's the normal lifespan of a well, because they don't last forever.
That's correct.
I think to answer
let's keep it together. So,
sir, I hope this point of clarification helps. The wells in question that I believe are the subject of what is referred to as the SIMP, the Storage Integrity Management Plan that SoCalGas has proposed, those wells were not leaking at the time. And so this discussion about deferred maintenance is one that is relevant. The discussion, I believe Chairman Picker indicated, is that with regard to recovery from the well that is leaking, SS25, That would have to be handled separately under PUC petition. But the important distinction, I believe, is that at the time that SoCalGas made that presentation, the wells were not leaking. Now, we have a testing protocol that we have in place for the wells. It is a protocol that looks to see if the wells are leaking at the time of the test. One of the things that is going to come about as a part of the new regulations, the emergency regulations that have been released, and that will be part of the evaluation of all of the wells in Aliso Canyon, is the notion not just of is the well leaking now, but does the well have a potential to leak in the near future? And then let's talk about what orders need to be made to ensure that those wells do have integrity. I hope that clarifies the issue.
No, it doesn't, because you haven't still answered to me if the cost is still going to be passed on to us. Let me ask one more. My question is fracking going on?
I'm sorry.
Jason, his question is fracking. Okay, but he did ask, there is a relevant question here, which is fracking happening at Aliso Canyon, or has it happened at Aliso Canyon?
Hydraulic fracturing has been used in Aliso Canyon. Our review of the well records indicates that it was used 7 times. It was not used, according to the well records, on SS-25, which is the leaking well, or on any of the wells within approximately 1,500 feet of that. That is based upon a review of our well records. Many of you who know the history of hydraulic fracturing know that that was not an activity that was required to be reported to the department prior to January 1 of 2014, and we're going to be making sure that we get the information in the older well records from the operator. That is part of a letter and a directive that went out today from Oil and Gas Supervisor Ken Harris.
So I live in that neighborhood. How do we get notified this fracking is going on?
Presently, under the rules propagated by Senator Pavley, Senate Bill 4, public notice has to be provided of hydraulic fracturing to people within a specified distance of the well, and it has to be posted publicly on the Department of Conservation's website.
And so directly, there was a sort of a follow-up that the division made to SoCalGas that says, okay, this is what our records say, but we want to double confirm. Give us the rest, any records that haven't been provided about fracking. And we will put those, that's public information that gets put up on the website.
In addition to this,
the public one. Can we?
Well, no, because I said I had 3 sections to ask.
Well, I think we're going to have to move on with a lot of people waiting. You can come up to us afterwards and we can address that.
Maybe if you have questions for me, I'll hang out afterwards.
No, mine was for the air quality section, because I asked before about the amount of testing that was done in terms of the data. And I know that AQMD has been doing monitoring off-site, but how much monitoring on-site on the well near the wellhead has been done? Because I read a report on AQMD that they did collect 3 canisters, 2 of them which are pulled by Boots and Coots, one of them by the gas company, and that's how the data was collected on-site of the well. If we had more data, more real time, we would know exactly what's coming out of the well, and we can actually kind of model the dispersion or exactly know where or how much is coming out of there in terms of the actual benzene, instead of actually measuring spotted little areas where the air can disperse them anywhere, and it can actually be at a lower volume. So at least we know
Let's
exactly.
get a chance to answer the question on air monitoring. Richard?
The monitoring that's going on, you're correct. We're not, ARB's not doing monitoring up at the site itself. We're doing monitoring in the community, and we put that on the website so people can see it in the community for methane. We recently added benzene. You can go real time. This is for anyone to see. It's posted on the site, hourly by hourly measurements. We're looking to add, in fact, I directed my folks, add additional benzene monitoring. We're also doing flyovers at the site in terms of flying through the plume that's helping us estimate the emission rate. And we also have some downwind fixed monitors. So we're looking at all these monitoring elements and making that data available. But if the point is, and we're open to this, if the point is, hey, we've looked at that, we still have some concerns about the need for additional measurements, I'm open to talk about that. But what we tried to do is get information out to all of you, have you have real access to it, hourly by hourly measurements, so you can see what's going on in the community, as well as the flyover information. All this information's posted.
So the flyover is happening even though we have a no-fly zone?
The flyover is outside of the fly zone. It's about 3,000. We run from elevation to about 3,000 to 30,000 feet, and it flies right through the methane plume.
Thank you. Sir?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeff Naftel. I'm also a Porter Ranch resident. I've got a few questions. You know, as a layperson, I'm having a hard time understanding why, when the gas company had reported that this was predictable, what's happening to us, that as a collective group of here to protect us, that you stood by and didn't force them to cap those wells or put those valves on, whatever they needed to put on there. That this was, they told you that this could happen. So why did you let it happen?
So, can you
My question's more-
clarify your question for us?
Well, it's really, I'm trying to understand why, when you were notified that that they have a problem, they told you they had a problem, and that what was happening to us now here with this low well leakage was predictable, that it was going to be a problem, and we knew it, and that I understand a number like $300 million was floated out there. Why didn't you require Sempra to come in and take care of the problem instead of having the disaster that we're dealing with now? Aside from property value problems, I don't know how that's going to be resolved. These lawsuits, it's going to be $1 billion action when it's all done.
Maybe I'll try to turn that into a question for the
Yeah,
CPUC, which is when SoCalGas, testified before the CPUC to get more funding for upgrades. What was the reaction of the CPUC? And I think the gentleman suggesting that that was an indication that something like this could happen. My understanding is that the CPUC actually approved the request to actually spend the money that they were requesting to upgrade. That's not going to make you satisfied, because I think your point is more should have been done from your perspective. But I do think in this case, when SoCalGas came to the CPUC and said, these are old wells, we need to upgrade them, we need this amount of money, the CPUC approved it.
These things aren't really brought to us as problems. They're normally brought to us as, here's our pipeline or our well replacement program. This is infrastructure maintenance and replacement of aging parts. We look at that to make sure that it's warranted, and we approve the costs. Now, I will say that we don't understand wells very well. We mostly do gas pipelines. And so here, perhaps we need to have the guidance that the Dogger is actually starting to provide us. But so far as our experts could tell, this was actually just normal maintenance and replacement of aging parts.
Okay. Sir, follow-up question?
Yeah, my last portion of this was, considering the financial loss that we're going to be looking at potentially here, what is the state going to be doing here to assure us that Sempra is going to stand by and pay these claims, and it's going to be huge?
Well, I can tell you that the Attorney General, which is sort of the equivalent of the city attorney for the state, is actively exploring whether violations took place. The CPUC is doing an investigation. The Division of Oil and Gas is doing an investigation. And there's any number of penalties or sanctions that could take place. I don't think they're going to give you a satisfying answer now, because a lot of this depends on once the well is closed, actually understanding the cause of the leak, and then doing a much deeper dive on the company's response to the leak. But I think, well, I know it's our intent to make sure that if there were violations, SoCalGas is held accountable. And so it's not going to be a situation when the gas leak gets stopped and several months later when the report comes out, it's going to be a casual conversation. This is, there will be accountability.
Yeah, and I may want to add that our experience in the past from, like, for example, San Bruno, when they had the pipeline explosion, is that the state agencies that are doing those investigations in the long term will hold Southern California Gas accountable for working to pay costs and losses and adjudicate those to all of the individuals that have been impacted. So it is a process. But there is history and doctrine associated with that, and we do have a pathway forward as we move forward and we get the results of the investigations.
All right.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Gabriel Callion, Save Porter Ranch, as well as Renaissance Community Secretary. It seems like every question everybody's asking, you guys are going in big circles, answering, trying to answer, etc. I got one simple question for you guys, and the question is this. My son can answer his kindergarten. Why did it take Governor Brown's office 75 days to declare a state of emergency? What was he waiting for? We have hundreds of people sick, thousands of people relocating, and the state departments as well as the federal departments don't care about us at all. All we do is hear what you got to say, but nothing's being done about it.
Is that your question?
And my second question and my last question is, how long is it going to take for Governor Brown to shut it down? Enough's enough.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe I can take this particular question and just say that there was no waiting on the part of any state agency or department to respond to this particular event and engage with Southern California Gas. The governor was briefed all along. All those agencies that have statutory authority responded. He was understanding about how the response was going as it evolved. Everything that could be done was being done to mitigate the situation. And as we got more information, our recommendation to the governor was that there was a need to do a state of emergency. That state of emergency focuses the attention and also ensures that all of the responding entities, as well as some of the regulatory processes that can get streamlined so that some of the agencies that are represented here can, in fact, hold Southern Gas accountable, are then put in place. This is a process. There's no linear piece to any of this. These are several things, and there are many cases throughout the state where events happen and you have to get certain kinds of information before the governor actually declares a state of emergency. So I guess what I'm saying to you is there was no delay in any response that a state of emergency day 1 or day 15 would have mattered. The fact of the matter is that they all responded, and the governor's state of emergency now is in place to help these agencies ultimately hold Southern California Gas accountable.
Where is he today? Why isn't he here?
Yeah.
He declared state of emergency
Appreciate
and
that.
BP oil within a day.
So let me just say
75 days?
This is a big state. The governor's got most of his cabinet represented here. He was down here 2 weeks ago.
Exactly. Why wasn't
Personally,
he here?
could not be here
Where
tonight.
is he?
So,
So now we got to concentrate on shutting this facility
Okay.
down. It's too dangerous
Do you
for
have any more
us
questions?
in the community. That will be it.
Thank you. Sir.
Yes, sir. My question, I'm following up with the gentleman about Porter Ranch.
Hold it together so we can hear the gentleman.
Sorry, the Porter Ranch used to be a very nice city, very clean, very good reputation. Gas company have damaged the city, and that will impact at least 200 or whatever, 25% price decrease, you know. And there is a disclaimer on any new buyer, and this is impacting on everybody's. You know, my request is this: is there somebody is thinking about it? What can be done? Number one. Number two question is
Okay,
this.
let's be clear. Your question is, are we thinking about the economic losses and the impact to the community from an economic standpoint?
Yes, sir.
The answer is yes, we are. We are working, it's okay. So we are working with both the city and the county to collect that loss information. We have reached out to the Small Business Administration. We are looking at, through legislative action, other sort of programs that can be provided for you all. And so there is a process, again, to collect that data to determine what the total economic loss is. That will all be collected, and it will be used in working with Southern California Gas to be able to reimburse and make you whole and the community whole again, as you were before the event took place.
I have a second question, sir.
Yes, second question.
Is there this gentleman from Cal EPA Secretary, I have a question for him.
Yes.
Is there a way you can figure out if I live 1.5 mile, 2 miles away from the gas leak, what is the toxicity level? What is the parts per million my family is taking every day? If somebody is staying here 24/7, I was listening 1070 today. There is a scientist, he made findings that this is very dangerous. It's like a poison, sweet poison. Nobody know, but you're going to have a consequences. You have to pay for it.
Okay. Did you hear the question, Matt?
Yes. I think you've heard the representatives from the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessments say that based on the information that they're seeing right now, that there isn't a significant health risk associated with the benzene levels that you're seeing there. But, and that assessment and their thinking and what went into their evaluation is on their website, so you can take a look at what they're looking at. Now, I will say also that they have appointed a panel of experts who will also be looking at this. We were talking about the fact that they'll be looking at modeling so they can see the dispersion. So we will continue to take a look at it. We are concerned, very concerned, about the health ramifications of this kind of situation. That's why we've brought in these folks and why they're here today.
Sir, my question is this. If you are living 2 miles away from that leak, how I can determine what you are exposed to toxicity and methane level and benzene level, how it is affecting on your lungs, on your body, on your health. That's it. Is there a way you can tell us? If you are certain miles away, you are certain risk factor here? That's it. Thank you.
So let me explain how we've been looking at the toxicity data. We have what we call reference exposure levels, which are levels that have been publicly and peer-reviewed for benzene, and we compare them to the exposure measurements made by the monitoring. And what we see is that those exposure measurements are below the levels that would make us want to do something. So they're below the levels of that our health values that we have for benzene. For non-cancer health effects, which are benzene affects your blood, so we're looking at that. We don't see that that's a risk. We're also looking at the cancer-causing properties of benzene. And so we've estimated cancer risk from benzene. From the background levels, it's actually about the same for background Los Angeles, the benzene levels. In fact, some of the measurements in Porter Ranch are actually lower than a lot of the areas of LA. So the gas,
Okay, let's, please, folks, we have a lot of people that still want to talk.
so we're always concerned about benzene. I would like to see zero benzene, but it's not going to happen because we all drive cars. There's other sources. The amount coming into the community from the gas would increase cancer risk very, very slightly.
Sorry, miss, I have to disagree with you. I was listening 1070 this morning. They said that the leaks happening through this Aliso, this gas leak, it is very dangerous, it's poisonous, it's very toxic, and I can guarantee you want to hear that the analogy, whatever the analysis the fellow have, if you want, you can call 1070, and this is not my talk. This is an expert who is saying this thing.
Yes, well, we do have a panel of experts. They will be looking at the same data. They're independent of us. They're professors in the UC system to make an assessment of what they believe the risk.
But I would say if you have data that they don't have access to, or a scientist, share that with us. Come up afterwards and share it with us. What these folks are saying is that they've collected data on benzene, and that the levels of benzene that are apparent in this community, science suggests are not harmful and are actually similar to the background levels of benzene in LA. Don't have to necessarily agree with that, but the data being collected on benzene is what we're assessing, and the science regarding risk and exposure is what we're basing that on.
Okay, great, thank you. Ma'am?
Great. Hello. So what it sounds like to me is that this board really serves to protect the gas company and their bottom line. And tomorrow, this is for the community. Tomorrow there is going to be a very important hearing where the AQMD is considering issuing an order for abatement, which they can use their authority to shut the facility down. And so please come out tomorrow, Granada Hills, Charter High School, 8 a.m. But if they don't do that, will Governor Brown step in to protect the community?
Okay.
And shut the facility down?
So can I tell you?
You have a question, ma'am?
Yeah, so.
You have a question?
Yeah, so my question is, since it looks like, and we know the CPUC has been in a lot of controversy, especially over the San Bruno incident, in protecting the utility, we want to make sure that this review that this board is doing and the future viability of this facility is a public process, it's accountable to the people, and it's transparent. So what are we going to do to ensure that happens rather than a report that just happens in the dark?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can say that's certainly our commitment. It's not popular to come here and for many of you to hear that the facility can't be shut down now. We get that. And we will take that back, that there's an intensity in the community to want Aliso Canyon shut down. What we know, based on all of the information we collected and the jobs we do day to day, is if Aliso Canyon didn't exist tomorrow or was shut down tomorrow, there'd be a major portion of the Los Angeles basin that would turn on their thermostats and not get heat. That's a problem. And it is what it is. That's a problem. But, and I'm just trying to be as clear as we can be, but as I said, we're committed to actually understanding what's the viability of changing that future for Aliso Canyon and the other storage fields. And it's not a simple process, and it's fairly complex, but your point is you want it to be publicly transparent, and you don't want it to be a report that happens in the dark up in Sacramento and then gets issued. So our commitment to you is to be transparent about how that report comes together and hopefully identify a way for the public, the community to provide input to that, to really understand the decision-making behind ultimately what the report says.
And if Cal ISO said that this facility could be taken offline and they have contingency plans for the reliability of the grid, can you respond to that and what that means?
Yeah, Cal ISO is part of the interagency conversation, at least my understanding, and I'm not an expert compared to a lot of people up here, but is that it's not feasible to close Aliso right now. And so we're spending a lot of time understanding what it means not to have the facility online for the summer, for example, because as you remember, the proclamation, Senator Pavley's legislation says there's a moratorium on new gas into the facility until this safety review is complete. And we're not rushing the safety review. The safety review is going to be thorough. So it may be the case that Aliso, the gas doesn't get injected into Aliso for some months. And we're trying to work around actually how to balance that. When I say it would be a problem for Aliso to shut down permanently now, that is my understanding, is that it would impact the reliability, energy reliability in this larger community.
Okay, SoCalGas did put on their website that interview. I recommend you listen to it, where they say anything could be taken offline. We have a contingency plan. That's our job. Just want you to know that.
Thank you. Sir. Thank you. Sir.
Hi, good evening. Craig Galante, longtime Porter Ranch resident, 25 years. And first of all, thank you for being here. Okay. We certainly have some terrific representation here, some titles that I can't pronounce. We do not need more government. What we need is accountability, and we need to show where the teeth are in all of this. And with a lot of questions that have been rather direct, and I will get to my question, but I do have a couple of comments. 25 years here, 4 adjacent households to mine, including my own, cancer within the household. Okay? I live about as close as you can to SS25. And I moved out. Out of protection of my family, my pet, I moved out. And I welcome anybody, any senior executive from the SoCalGas or from Dogger or from PUC to come live in my house. You'll be really close to ground zero. You will be as close as you possibly can be. You can run up the hill, see the progress they're making, open invitation. Bring your dog, bring your children, just like me. See what it feels like to be displaced from your home, have to set up your computers all over again. You move your utilities, make a bunch of phone calls, watch your wife get stressed out, all those things. Live it like I had to and like many others had to here. Okay, now to my question.
Okay, thank you.
It's been really, I had about 4 questions. Many of them already been asked. So, and it leads to, where is the accountability? You could drive a truck through the poor judgment, negligence, and absolute incompetence that has happened up on that hill. If the gas company can point to Dogger and say, we don't have to have a valve at the base of the well where the methane is, it's not on the top, it's at the bottom of the well. If they have the permission and the latitude to use a piece of galvanized pipe that was put in place 61 years ago, where's the accountability? And when questions, very pointed questions are asked, how did this happen? PUC points to Dogger, Dogger points to PUC, PUC points to gas company. How is it, at the protection of a very populous area, this is my question, how is it that there's not more teeth to the existing government bodies that are up here? We don't need more. We need you guys to have the teeth and exercise it. What is preventing that from happening today? Wade, you're right. Everybody here wants it shut down. And I do not want to see you guys get buffaloed by a bunch of really smart guys at the gas company explaining why this storage facility, which they can buy gas low prices during the summertime, store it, and then be more profitable when they pump it out in the wintertime. If they buffalo you guys and you do not have the teeth or the credibility to be in the positions that you're in. Senator, thank you for being here. Push these people to achieve what they're here to do. You have an incredibly populous area. How is it that the accountability is not in place? That's my question. Thank you.
Let me try to take this one. The focus right now has been to stop the leak. That has been the focus. We want to get the emergency, the crisis mitigated. Simultaneously, part of us being here tonight, part of what the legislators are doing, what the city council is doing, is addressing the issue of accountability. I 100% guarantee there will be accountability to Southern California Gas for either it's inaction, slow action, or pure negligence should that come up in the final investigations. There have been obviously cases in the past where huge fines have been levied against utilities as a result of not doing the things that they need to do to protect the community. This is not going to be any different. But right now, the issue is stop the leak, get the thing situated, make the community safe, get people back into their homes. And through this process here, through the governor's actions, through the legislature's actions, that accountability will come.
Well, I appreciate that. I just have one more point. We're in triage now, right? We have a major disaster, so you're absolutely right. We have to stop the leak. This was going to happen. It's a 61-year-old pipe. Everybody in Southern California knows you bury a piece of galvanized pipe for a water supply, a sprinkler. It corrodes. You have to replace it. It's impossible. It's unconscionable that I've been there 25 years and didn't know about this facility, nor how poorly it was run. Guys, step up.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Sir, I know you've been waiting. Thank you. Very good point. Sir. Thank you.
My name is Hal Bass. I'm a 30-year resident of Porter Ranch. We heard reference to the 1989 Loma Prieta quake. On Sunday, it'll be 22 years since we went through the 6.7 Northridge earthquake in this community. What I'm concerned about, we've heard about the possibility, although you folks tried to reassure us that there won't be a blowout, but we know that this is earthquake country, fire country. What I want to ask, and maybe the council member can answer it, Susnan Boulevard would be a major egress for first responders and for people to exit the community if it were connected to Granada Hills over Aliso Canyon. That should be done, and I want to ask, why isn't it being done? Why isn't this a priority? Because one day we're going to be sorry that we didn't have that.
Thank you. Councilman, you want to address that?
I'll just be brief on this. How many people want Cessnon to go all the way through to Granada Hills? How many don't? That's why it's not done. So the plan.
It shouldn't be a vote. It should be priority for safety.
Sure, I'm answering the question. The plan, actually, that's not why it's not done. The plan was actually approved some 30 years or so ago to do that. And the cost today would be roughly $1 billion or so to do it. The only way that the city would be able to pay to have the bridge actually go through in full completion all the way to Granada Hills is probably a special assessment to each and every one of you to pay for it. And the will isn't there of the people to do that. People don't want it to go all the way through. So
I can't believe it would
probably not
cost
going to be done
$1 billion to build a bridge. But one thing you could do is ask the gas company to pay for it.
Thank you, sir. Sir, please.
I'm a Porter Ranch resident. I have 2 points. To the gentleman's point about what can be done immediately, 6 weeks ago on this stage, Robert Kennedy Jr. stood here and said, when this kind of thing happens elsewhere in the country, gas leak 101 is you run a line from the leak a quarter of a mile away from homes, you light it on fire. He called it flaring. He said it's basically standard operating procedure. The gas company is not doing it. He says he has repeatedly asked the gas company why they're not doing it. He said they refuse to answer. He called it lawyering up. And I'd like to see if I can get an update on that, because it seems like that would be an immediate position to take. The second point, Senator Pavley was kind enough to reference earlier tonight that for future wells, the concern is for wells built prior to 1953, which means a well has to be 64 years old or older to draw increased scrutiny. So a well that might be 63 years old is okay, but 64 years old is not. Doesn't that strike anybody as just a little bit crazy? Why should anybody here have confidence in a well that's more than 50 years old but not quite 64, that those wells aren't going to have the same result as the well that we're all here for tonight for?
Okay, thank you. Let's see if Jason can answer your question on the flaring.
Thank you.
I may be able to cover them both.
I'll go both. That's great. We'll get a twofer.
Sir, the first question with regard to the flaring, I indicated earlier, there's a concern about the safety of the capture of the gas at the site. The division, I don't think anybody really wants to see a compromise of worker or public safety by trying to capture the gas in a way that's not safe. We know that SoCalGas has a plan forward for incineration of the gas, but at this point the question really is how to safely capture the gas and get it to that incinerator. We are working with them. We are reviewing their plans. I know other agencies that have actual permitting authority over that are looking at this question about safety and about how to get that gas capture system installed as quickly as possible.
And Jason, because you've explained it to me on this very question, the issue here is that the leak isn't coming from a very well-defined area. So if it was, then you could put a pipe onto it and then flare it or incinerate it. In this case, it's kind of coming almost out of a chasm. And so then the issue is, how do you put a hood or a tent over that chasm in a way that doesn't bring in oxygen? Because when you do that, you create a potential, explosive threat. Right?
That is correct. And the gentleman who raised the notion earlier, I'm very interested in hearing that and being able to pass that along to our experts. We are actually asking experts from the Lawrence Berkeley, Lawrence Livermore, and Sandia National Labs to help us evaluate the safety of that kind of a system. To your second question.
Wells that, let's say, are 63 years old.
Thank you. The integrity of the well question, or the review, date, age somewhat matters because of the date that the well construction standards were established, but more importantly is really the quality of the well. And as we look to do the evaluation of the wells, Really, the first thing we're going to look at are things like, is there cement separating the metal from the earth in the well construction? And then move through the prioritization scheme of wells that, by dint of their construction, some of it may have to do with age, but really more of it is how they were built. Which ones need to get reviewed first so that we can make sure that we get through the highest risk wells first and expeditiously as we go through the review of all of the wells in the field.
But I would just add something that I think is important, which is one, starting today, there are emergency regulations in place moving forward that require the daily review or the daily monitoring of every wellhead and every storage field across the state. But additionally, that division is starting a permanent rulemaking instead of not emergency regs that are temporary, but permanent moving forward, not only to require that monitoring moving forward, but potentially to require stronger standards for well construction, regardless of the age. Because you raise a good point. It's not that, you know, we should look at wells that are 63 years old, but not that are 61 years old. And these permanent regulations will potentially require stronger standards regardless of the age of the well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to loop back to Secretary Lear. I may have missed you. Did you have a comment?
I'll reserve it till later.
Okay, thank you, sir.